Now it's time for a look through the French papers. Diptyque Laurent is with me in studio. Diptyque, I guess we can start with this French prison strike that continues now for an 11th consecutive day.
That's right. Those prison guard unions are showing no signs of backing down. It's their 11th day of striking. They continue to toe the picket line and have essentially paralyzed some of France's biggest penitentiaries. The unions are demanding better working conditions, notably more security after a spate of attacks on guards by inmates. They also want better pay, and they also want overtime, which they're currently not paid. This is why their anger is showing no signs of dissipating. That's what La Croix, the Catholic paper, says today. Not to mention the fact that negotiations with the Justice Ministry are all pretty much, quote, dead in the water.
Indeed, and Macron's government coming in for quite a lot of criticism as a result.
Particularly from the left-leaning press, it must be said. Let's start with the communist paper L'Humanité, which explains that this strike is not about emotion. This is a crisis in the judicial and penitentiary system, a crisis exacerbated by years of austerity that's seen budget cuts and staff layoffs that's led to this situation of insecurity in prisons. And L'Humanité says when you do the math, what the government's proposing to the prison guards is not even really 1/100th of the benefits reaped by the rich, thanks to Macron's decision to remove inheritance taxes, for instance.
One newspaper, I believe, has quite an original take on that prison strike, also a left-wing paper.
That's Libération. They always have really cool headlines, and they're always very creative with their paper. It's always quite nice. Now, today, if you leaf through Libération, you'll notice that all of their illustrations are actually comics, because they're paying homage to one of France's most well-known comic book festivals, le Festival d'Angoulême. Hence why you see, as you see, comics on the front of Libération, and also inside the newspaper, there's a comic strip, for instance, about France's prison strike, which the paper notes is the biggest strike in 25 years. The left-leaning paper is warning that, you know, between the walls, the situation is also becoming more and more tense for French prisoners.
And they also featured, in that same paper today, is the rise of Elon Musk's SpaceX.
And totally depicted through illustrations, it must be said. Libé calls it the war of the space rockets. Elon Musk's SpaceX was only founded in 2006 and at the time was seen as pure folly by a rich billionaire. It's not the case, though, today. No one's laughing. Well, perhaps just Elon Musk, because it's actually turned out to be a really good experiment. One agency that's certainly not laughing is the European Space Agency, which manages the Ariane rockets, because they've taken a hit thanks to SpaceX, or rather due to SpaceX. Musk has managed to impose himself in the market with his Falcon 9 rocket that's famously said to be partially reusable. The rocket is purported to be twice as cheap, and it's totally changed the game. That's what Libération says. And you see in this graphic here, in 2017, SpaceX even overtook Ariane in the number of launches made.
And Musk is showing no signs of slowing down. He's got his eyes on the moon, on Mars.
That's right. Nothing is beyond his limit, really. I mean, this is the man who came up with PayPal, and now he's forged a name for himself in spatial aviation. And it turns out he's not the only billionaire with his eyes on the prize. Jeff Bezos, the Amazon founder, is also trying to get his part of the space exploration market with his Blue Origin. In the case of Musk, his company is working on a super powerful rocket called the Falcon Heavy, which could potentially send a rocket onto the moon and possibly Mars, as you see in this great cartoon here.
Okay, slightly closer to home, I believe you found an article that will directly affect, I imagine, a lot of us, and it's the dangers of the addiction of Facebook.
And this warning, what's extraordinary is that this warning is coming from a Silicon Valley boss. His name is Mark Benioff. He's the CEO of Salesforce, and he gave this warning at Davos yesterday, saying that the American government needs to start regulating tech giants, in particular Facebook, as a public health issue. So for Benioff, he says Facebook is pretty much like the tobacco industry and needs to be regulated as such. He calls Facebook addictive and potentially dangerous, calling for similar regulations in order to slow down the usage of the social media website. But it remains to be seen if the government will heed those warnings.
I have to admit, I am victim to that addiction. Are you?
I think we all are, yes.
I've even installed things on my computer to block my own access to it for a number of hours.
I've tried to take it off my phone, but that doesn't work either.
Oh, I have it off my phone. I'm doing better than you on that one. Meanwhile, Diptyque, koalas in Australia are starting to feel the heat.
That's right. It's really hot in Australia. Temperatures have hit 47 degrees recently, and the heat wave has actually prompted koalas to start drinking water. Now, this sounds quite normal, but in fact, koalas don't drink water. They get all their resources from eucalyptus leaves. And it turns out now the heat is so unbearable that they've taken to the side of roads demanding people for water. One cyclist said he came across a koala who was so thirsty he emptied his water bottle. A strange sight for two reasons. Generally, koalas stay away from people. And secondly, the very word koala is actually an Aboriginal word meaning no drink.
Oh, wow. That's really quite interesting. A very cute picture, I have to say. Diptyque Laurent with a wrap-up of the papers. Thanks indeed for that. Time for us now to take a very quick break, but we're back with all the latest updates in just a few minutes. Stay with us here on France 34.